Hi there, thank you so much for joining me today. This is my next Pan Those Eyeshadows project. It was a project created by Alexi. I'll have her information in the description box. And the premise is that you randomly generate shadows from your collection, you try to hit pan on them, and as you hit pan on a shade, you roll in a new one, so you always have a set number of eyeshadows that you're working on. This year, I've separated all of my eyeshadows into one of three categories. I have the Gucci category, which are eyeshadows that I think would be really easy to hit pan on, or relatively easy, and I picked two shades to go into my quintet from this category. The next one is the Turn Up category. These are intermediate shades, ones that I still feel very confident that I could hit pan on, but they might take a little bit more work than the Gucci category eyeshadows. And again, I picked two shadows from this category to go in my quintet, and then I choose one eyeshadow from my Flex category, which are eyeshadows that I think would be very difficult, or at least somewhat difficult, to hit pan on. I'm very pleased to announce that I'll be rolling out two eyeshadows. I hit two pans, and as a result, I'll be able to bring two new ones in. It's going to change my quintet up a little bit, and I'm just really excited to see what I get. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is show you the 5 eyeshadows that I was working on in the past month. And then I'm going to start with the 2 eyeshadows that I hit pan on. The first one is from the Colourpop Making Mauves palette, and it's the shade Bicoastal, which is a shimmer shade. It's a pinky taupe color. This past month I used it an additional 15 times to hit pan, and total in this project I have used it 36 times. And even though this is a relatively smaller pan, I do feel like it took quite a bit longer than I expected to. This is a shade that I love to use all over the lid. I like to use it in the inner corner, so I do use a pretty generous amount of it whenever I do create looks with it, and I really have enjoyed using it. I love these types of shades. I do have a somewhat similar shade in my quintet still that I'll be talking about later, so I am gonna miss this one, but I'm just super excited to have a pan in this and to see what I get rolled in its place. And Bicoastal was from my Easy category, my Gucci category, because I did assume that it wouldn't be too difficult. It wouldn't be too much of a chore for me to use that all the time and try to hit pan on it. And I was right. It did take a little bit longer than I thought it would, but I still really enjoyed it. The next one that I hit pan on is actually from my Flex category. This is a shadow I would have never seen myself actually hitting pan on. I thought it was going to take a lot longer because it's a shade I don't reach for very often. And it's from my Shroud Cosmetics Creepy Cute palette, and it's the shade Tombstone, which is a darker cool toned gray matte, and I have hit pan on it. This past month, I used it an additional 15 times to hit pan, and total out of this project, I've used it 36 times. I was a little unsure about it when I first rolled it in, which is why it was in the hard category, and I actually ended up loving this. I love the shade. I'm wearing a little bit of it on my outer corner today, and I just fell in love with the shade. It's a shade that I didn't reach for as much as the other shades from this palette, and now that I know how to work with it, I definitely see myself reaching for this more moving forward. Sometimes I'd use it to deepen up whatever shade I had on the outer corner, but a lot of times I would use this as a base, and I think it's fantastic for that. This is very pigmented and smooth and relatively easy to blend, especially considering that it's a darker gray matte. And so I'd put this all over the lid, and then I'd put a multi-chrome or a duochrome on top, and it always just made it look so special. I'll show you in one of my looks later on one of my favorite ways to use it, and it's just, this is why I love the Pan Those Eyeshadows project so much, because this is a shade I would have looked over very easily. I would have never really gone out of my way to wear it a ton to give it a shot, and now that I have, it's one of my favorite shades in the palette, and it creates looks that I probably would not have just thought to do on my own. It means I'll be rolling in another hard eyeshadow in my collection, but I am excited to see what I roll in, and who knows, maybe it'll be another dark matte that I can kind of use in a similar way. The next 3 shades I haven't hit pan on yet, but I am making really great progress, and the first one I want to talk about is a single from Tarte. This is in the shade Poker Face. This is kind of similar to Bicoastal, which I hit pan on this month. It's a little bit deeper, and it doesn't have as much of a sparkle. It's a much smoother, maybe more sophisticated type of formula, because it doesn't really have that like glittery aspect to it that Bicoastal had. I used this an additional 12 times. So far in this project, I've used it 24 times, and I will be reaching for this a lot more now that Bicoastal has been rolled out. This is a relatively thicker pan, and I do use my finger to apply this most of the time, and it's not something that I put in the inner corner. It's just slightly too deep and not reflective enough to do that. So I'm not entirely sure how long this will take. This is from my intermediate category, so I'm not surprised that it is going to take me a little bit longer to hit pan on, but I'm really enjoying it. I really like this formula, and yeah, I'm just trucking along with this one. The next shade is from my easy category, and this is Tuscan Fun from Colourpop. It's from the Limoncello palette, and I did really think that this would be a lot easier to hit pan on because it's a warm mid-tone matte shade. I can use it in the crease. I really enjoy shades like this. And the pan, even though it is wider than other Colourpop singles, it is super thin. So I didn't really think I'd have any problem hitting pan. This past month, I've used it 16 times, and I used it 18 times the month prior, which means I've used it a total of 34 times. And I still think it's gonna take me another month of continued focus to hit pan on it, maybe even longer. I'm not entirely sure if it's going at the pace that it has been. I really don't know. I am so close though, and I'm enjoying it, but I'm excited to see pan on it. And the last shade I have progress to share is the one that I rolled in last month, and this is from my intermediate category, and it's an ABH matte shade called Orange Soda. It's from my Soft Glam mini palette, and this one I think is going to definitely be like a true intermediate shade. Sometimes in the past, ABH mattes have been relatively easy to hit pan on. They're a softer, more powdery formula, and I feel like a lot of them I would need to apply more to get the level of pigment that I wanted. But this one is definitely a lot more hard pressed, but it is still quite pigmented even though it is a lighter, more pastel shade. And I typically use this as a transition shade in conjunction with Tuscan Fun, which is that slightly deeper warm brown. And I really like how that looks. I'm wearing that in my crease today with these greens and olives. And it's a simple look, definitely something I can use as we transition into fall. I used this 16 times last month. I really don't think it shows in the before and after progress videos. I think this is going to be a longer haul type of pan to reach, but that's fine. I really like it, and I can definitely see myself incorporating this into more of my looks as we enter into the autumn season. I'm sure you're just as eager as I am to roll in those two new shades, so I'm going to try to quickly go through the other things that I want to discuss first. One of the things I would like to touch on is my pan percentage and how it has changed since the past month. I did hit pan on 2 shades, but I also finished an eyeshadow that I already had pan on. I finished a matte cream shadow from the ABH Sultry palette. I think it was called Fresh. And so that removed not only a pan, but a shadow out of my collection. And then having added 2 new pans to that, my pan percentage still went up, but maybe not as much. So I moved that ABH shadow out of my eyeshadow collection because it doesn't count as an eyeshadow to me anymore. So it did bring my number of shadows down from 236 down to 235. And then I had pan in that shadow, so once I finished it, I did also remove that from the number of pans that I have in my eyeshadow pans. So last month I had 30 pans out of 236 shadows, and that gave me a pan percentage of 12.7%. And now I have 31 pans out of 235 shadows, meaning my pan percentage has gone up to 13.2%. I don't have a specific goal with that. It's just something I like to look at. And it's nice to see that number go up, that percentage grow every month. Next, I do have 4 eyeshadow looks that I wanted to share. I created more looks than that, but these were my 4 favorite. Let's start with the one I'm wearing today. I'm wearing some greens and olives. I hope to do a swatch party video after this where I talk about all the greens in my collection, and so I wanted to wear some of my greens to showcase it. And also I've just been itching to do more green olive looks, especially since we're hitting the fall season. So like I said earlier, I have Orange Soda as a transition and Tuscan Fun in my crease, and then I used the Give Me Glow shade Dirty Martini from the Juicy Olive palette. That is a darker olive matte. Put that on the outer corner, and then I did put a little bit of Tombstone on top of that just to make it slightly more cool toned. And then I used Cleona Emerald, which they don't make anymore, I don't think, but it's a shimmery light, warmer green. I wore that all over the lid, and then I used Tarte Marvel in the inner corner. That one is a really bright, slightly cool toned light green shimmer from the Make Believe palette, which is also a discontinued palette. And then on my lips, I'm wearing a lip pencil from NYX in the shade Mauve. I'm wearing that in every look moving forward, so I'm not going to repeat that again. but I do have it labeled on the photo. The next one, I was also playing with greens. I was just kind of really attracted to green looks this month, and so I have, again, Orange Soda and Tuscan Fun in the crease, and I put Shroud Tombstone all over the lid like I had mentioned before. I really loved doing that. I put that all over the lid, and then I put Lethal Retrograde on top of it, which is a multi-chrome, and it has like a lot of different shifts, but when I put it on top of the gray base, the green part of it really stood out. I wore this in a couple videos and I got a lot of really great compliments. I just so happened to have a headband that matched it, so it just kind of all came together, and I really love this. I love this like soft green look. The next one, I wanted to play up more with the warm shades. So again, I have Orange Soda and Tuscan Fun in the crease, and then I used Mulberry from the ABH Soft Glam Mini palette, which is a darker burgundy matte. I put that on the outer thirds. I think I might have put that all over the lid actually. And then I put Cleona Prophecy, which is a duochrome. It's got a pink base and a gold shift on top. And you don't really see the pink as much. It definitely pulled a lot more of the gold, which I was surprised to see. I thought the duochrome would stay and it would have more of a shift, but it really didn't. It kind of just stuck to the gold. And I still really liked it. I thought this was a pretty warm color, but I don't know. I like to use Prophecy in a way where that gold and pink comes out, so I think I might need to wear more of a purple matte with it. And the very last one, I went for a more burgundy look, so I have Bicoastal all over the lid and in the inner corner, and then I have Charlotte Tilbury's Enhance, which is from the Pillow Talk quad. It's a really light pinky matte, and I have that all over the crease, and then I have Mulberry deepening up the outer third, and I really like a good burgundy look. This is definitely a more subtle, natural take on a burgundy look. I definitely could have gotten a lot more red with it, but Mulberry I find doesn't pull as red as some of the other red mattes in my collection, so I'll have to keep that in mind. And those are my 4 favorite looks that I created with these shades. Now, do we have anything left? No, it's time to pick the shades. So, like I mentioned, I have a shade from the easy category and a shade from the hard category to choose from. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is the easy category. I have my Pretty Random app up, and I have the minimum as 1 and the maximum as 41 because I have 41 eligible shadows that I consider to be in the easy category. So I am just going to randomize it. And the number I got is 25, which is Colourpop Palm Reader. I think that's from the Going Coconuts palette. Okay, so something to keep in mind is I did change up a few of the shades in a lot of my Colourpop palettes. So this shade here, I think it's actually Earthshine from the It's My Pleasure palette. And the reason why I have it in the easy category is because I've used it a lot, but I've also accidentally dropped it a couple times, or I don't know what happened, but I think I might have accidentally dug my nail into it. So there's already quite a big chunk taken out of it. And it's also a gorgeous shade that I love to use all over the lid, and I love pairing it with burgundies and reds. So this will be like the perfect time of year to be wearing this. So again, it's not technically Palm Reader, the original Palm Reader from the palette, but it is in that place, and so I'm going to treat it that way. That is so beautiful. I'm so excited. All right, so for my next shade, which is from my hardest to pan category, I have 35 eligible shadows, so I've switched the minimum to 35. I did clear the history, so we are ready to go, and the number I got is number 7, which is, again, a Shroud shade, and it's Dairy, which I think is from the It's Freaking Bats palette. It is. Okay, so this is a super dark, cool tone purple. I think this and that Earthshine shade are gonna go really nicely together. I think it'll also go really, really nicely with the Poker Face shade that I have from Tarte. If I'm gonna bring in a cool toned purple that's that deep, this is the time of the year that I would rather get it. Like, it's not something I would want to pull at like the very beginning of summer. I have seen people try to pan shades from this palette and they are quite deep. So I really don't know how long it's going to take, but if I use it in a similar fashion as I did with Tombstone from Shroud, I do think I can get more use out of it than I might have previously before I learned that like eyeshadow trick. Would you call it a trick or just a just a style, I don't know, but using it all over the lid and then putting like a really shiny transformative shade on top is something I'm really loving doing anyway, so maybe I'll try it with this and see if it works the same way. And normally whenever I pull shades from palettes like this, I do use a magnet to take them out, but this is a palette that I already have in my everyday makeup drawer because I want to reach for it more during this time of year. So I think I'm just going to keep the palette as a whole, and it's really not so bad. Like I might take Earthshine out of this palette, but even if I keep it, I only have 4 mini palettes that I'm trying to reach for on a regular basis. So that's awesome. Let me show you what they all look like together. Okay, so this is my quintet. I am so excited about these purpley pink colors. I can do a warm look, I can do a more purpley look depending on what mood I'm in. I think that most of these colors would work really nicely together if I wanted them to. I have a nice even mix of mattes and shimmers. It's just all coming together, and yeah, I'm just super excited about these and excited for a chance to reach for It's Freakin' Bats more. This is a palette that I just don't reach for enough, so to have a motivation or a reason to reach for this more often, or at least try to, is really exciting. And yeah, I did have this in I did an eyeshadow bingo a couple of videos ago, and I did it with all of my Shroud palettes, and coincidentally I did roll in Dairy as one of my shades, and so I used it as a liner and I liked it for that. But using dark matte shades as a liner, I don't know if it's because of the brush I'm using or my technique, but it kind of gets messy and it's not very easy. Like, I would just rather use a pencil, so I don't think I'm going to use it as a liner. I think I'll use it as a deepening color or as a base to put other shades on top. I am interested to see what it does to Earthshine when I put that on top. I keep saying Earthshine, but it's technically in the palm reader section, so you know what I mean. But yeah, this is great. I can create a lot of really pretty fall looks with any of these shades, so very excited. Like I mentioned in my introduction video, I am not setting myself up for having to do this every month, like having an update every month. I kind of just do an update once I feel like I have enough progress to share, and I usually try to wait until I hit pan on at least one eyeshadow so that in every update you know I'm rolling something out and bringing something new in. I do have a couple shades that I feel confident I could hit pan on. I think Tuscan Fun is probably going to be the next one that I hit pan on, but because I already have such a big dip in Earthshine, I might be able to hit pan on that one pretty soon as well, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm really feeling good about this one though. If you have any suggestions on like special ways to use these or color pairings or other colors that you think I should bring in to put with these, please let me know. I'm always up to hear what other people's ideas are. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video.